into upper division. This is a fabulous population. As our program is getting smaller and smaller, these would be the people that we could say, let's move you all into, because I felt, and I used to teach high school, it wasn't for very long, I taught in Brownsville, Texas, right on the border. So I knew about a lot of dealing with heritage learners. And what they really needed, and what I saw when I would get my heritage learners going into 327G and 327W, even in the literature classes, they had no notion of their language. They just took it for granted, like a lot of us do, like my kids do. They grew up bilingual, they don't know what a gift they have, and they have no idea of language arts. It's kind of weak in English, whereas as far as Spanish is concerned. And then I wanted to retain our inductive methodology that Rafael introduced, and Rafael Salaberry, for those of you that were new, he was the prior language program director. He made us change this, and Melissa can tell you, we went through about 5 years that was really tough of getting people on board. But I think the results that you all got when they tested the students who are exiting are showing, I mean, that's, to me, that's the major proof that this system works. And it is, because people have to think. It's not just rote memorization. If you've taken Latin before, I took Latin, I wanted to learn Latin, but I sat there and memorized everything. And it was gone in one semester. So that's what happens with rote, and this makes you think, so it retains a little bit more. Then the idea of the curriculum. 2-semester program, that's what I was told it was going to be, and that's what I had to work with. 604, if we wanted to exit students and they had to go to another course, where would they exit? They couldn't stay between 601 and 610. So then I decided we could get them to a 610 level. And 612, is it equivalent to 611D, or could we take them a little bit further? And then the challenges of definitely of building the program and the materials for the program. So, now our goals. Who comprises the heritage learner population? Basically, it's anyone students are exposed to language other than English at home. Okay? But here it would be Spanish. Okay? And we can categorize them after based on how prominent their use of Spanish is. Is it just social, like most of it is, that they speak with their friends, but there's nothing else? Some of them might have taken a piñata making Spanish class in high school. Some of them have gone to AP classes, but still, even with that, there were things I've noticed missing when they would get to my 327G classes. And we'll get students, and I think Josely can tell you about that, that are fluent, totally fluent, orally, and they're good in their writing. And then we'll have students who are fluent in their speaking, but they really are very weak in their writing, or just mediocre, more or less. And then we have students, and I have them, who are heritage learners, but who have barely spoken Spanish. But still, our regular track does not fit them, because they don't have to learn, like camisetas negra and things like that. They don't need that. So we have a tremendous mix. I think you've got a pretty big mix. Adam has it more or less standard, but I know, even in my 612, I still have a huge mix. And that's what's going to happen. And so you're trying to bring all of these people together to a level where that once they finish 612, they can go into our upper division classes and be successful. But the reality, like I said, is a huge mix. The other thing is, many of them, as far as culture, are knowledgeable about Mexican-American culture, perhaps some of Mexico, but stops there. Some who have come from El Salvador. Yeah, if they came to Texas, they've gotten the Mexican-American, but they might not be familiar with the other ones. And many of them, you can tell them, ¿Dónde está Costa Rica? ¿Dónde está Puerto Rico? And they'll say, switch them around, or they have no idea. So culturally, it is limited. So we wanted also to expose students to a varied culture. Okay. And then, did I skip one? I don't think so. Why language arts? This was my decision. Why language arts? I kept looking at the students that I was getting in my 327Gs, which is 327C now, 327W, and se me partía el corazón. They could speak the language, but they were totally intimidated by non-heritage speakers who scored so much better than they did, who we could talk about language, and they would understand had no idea qué es un presente, qué es un pretérito, por qué no puedo usar, por qué no puedo escribir el hijo con G. So all of these things were missing, and it was making them feel bad about their language, about their use of the language. So it was building up confidence, and for me, building up confidence in them was their ability not just to sort of speak, but to be able to be fluent, both in written and oral skills. But it had to be progressive. You can't just jump into it and do it. Progressively building up their literacy, building up their oral skills. Those are generally the best, okay? Building up their oral skills also. And the other thing that I wanted these students to do, because this is the other thing that I ran across, make them think critically. They were used so many, and I still have them, and they still struggle with me. It's just rote. The teacher says this, yo escribo eso. No, yo quiero que piense. That's to me, one of the biggest gifts we can give a student when they leave the university. Discipline and critical thinking. And then also understanding of an appreciation for their inherited language, because if we grew up with it, we don't know how to appreciate what we have. It's just part of us. We think everybody can do it, okay? But they had to learn to appreciate the gift that they have by being born or being brought up bilingual, okay? And then I thought that all of this, if they could think critically, if they could understand, they could appreciate their language, then they could feel much more confident in using their language skills. So then, among the other goals, learner-centered inductive methodology and critical thinking approach. Definitely, we use inductive methodology in our programs, and it should be learner-centered, and that's what we're thinking of. We're thinking of the learner. I'm not the teacher doing everything, but it's the learner. And then, once again, progressively guide them to hypothesize about oral and written language structures and cultural meanings. Take them to there. And you might say, that should be easy. No, they're just very used to the language and they don't think about it. So now it's, think about it. When I tell them, dices una palabra como comemos. Fíjense todo lo que dice comemos. Me estás diciendo un tiempo, me estás diciendo la persona. Fíjense todo. And little by little they start learning, they start appreciating. It's not just something that I produce spontaneously. Okay, and then the main thing was to tap into the knowledge that they come with. Okay? Their implicit knowledge. Tap into it. Look at what they've got. Pull that out and make it explicit. And then guide them to hypothesize. Now, meta-linguistic knowledge. And it's big time in our heritage courses. Because that's what I want them to be able to do is to be able to converse about their language. To me, a great thing was the other day, one of my students came in. Dijo, ay maestra, el otro día estaba mi novio, mi compañero de cuarto, le quería grabar a su mamá y no sabía si poner en el anillo, para ti mamá o por ti mamá. Y yo le pude explicar la diferencia. So she felt so good, and he was able to come, because he was saying, well, I'll say por ti mamá. And she said, well, is that on her behalf? No, I want to give it to her. Then you have to say, para ti, mamá. So they feel good about it. It's just not random guessing anymore. They're actually understanding their language. So to do that, terminology had to be there. That's what they were weak in when my heritage learners would come in to the advanced courses. No idea of the terminology. And I used to be of the ones who would say, if they can do it, why do they have to learn it? And then I realized why they have to learn it. Because it works fine if you're just in a regular course, but go to an advanced course or go to even our lower division courses use terminology. They lose it, they don't see it, because they're generally understanding everything and they don't see the terminology. And once they can speak about it, then they do feel good about their ability to speak. And that would, as they're learning it, they can interact with their peers, not just their peers in the class, but as they go into other classes, which are mixed. And definitely, they interact with their language. So, among the challenges, building the program and curriculum. Okay. I was told it's going to be a 2-semester program. That was told to me from the very beginning, 2-semester program. Why? One of the main reasons, we were trying to build a program. If a heritage learner can come in and we can tell them, you'll finish your language requirement in 2 semesters, or you'll finish your language requirement in 1 semester, and you just have to go through 610, then that would entice them to come. So we were trying to get them to come, because the majority will want to go to a second language acquisition course, because they think it's easier, and like I used to tell when I would teach it, your EZA turns out to be your ECC or D. Okay? Because it's not what they need. They see no value. Well, it's not that they see no value in it, they become lax about their learning. And the other one was also to assist our students to graduate on time. Remember, the university came in and they said, we want them to graduate in 4 years, 4 years, 4 years, 4 years. So this was another way to allow these students, because some of these students are coming because they are in the top 6% of their class, but they're coming from weaker schools, not as competitive academically, some of them are. So they come in for summer programs, they don't do well, they have to repeat courses, and they often would take 5 to 6 years to complete. So this was a way to let them get their language requirement in 2 semesters rather than 3 or 4, okay? Then the question was, what would we do with 604? And it was only normal for us to say, okay, it's going to be the equivalent of a 610, because these students really, they can go above and beyond a 601. They can go. And one of the other reasons was, okay, if a student takes a 604 and sees that it is too challenging, or it doesn't, because we don't have that many sections, they can't fit it into their schedule, then they have to go to a 611 to complete. So we have to prepare them with the material of a 610, perhaps not as in-depth as a 610, but we have to have them ready for a 611. And then as far as 612, would it be the equivalent of a 611? So we decided, yes, it would have to cover all the components of advanced intermediate, but I wanted to challenge these students to go beyond just the advanced intermediate, because they can. And so all of this meant, if you've ever worked teaching English to English speakers, I have. So I used to, I'm certified to also be an English teacher. So I have taught English and ESL. Okay, there has to be a lot of reprocessing. You have to keep going back over it and over it, because they are not understanding the why of it. And so you have to reprocess, you have to recycle, and particularly you have to reinforce everything that they're doing so that they will understand it. Okay, we'll wait for the computer to continue. There, okay. So, starting with the challenges, creations of material. And this one, at the very beginning, and I wish she would have stayed, it would have made such a huge difference. Lidia Huerta. We started in the summer talking about what we would do, how we could do it, but then she left. And she had hoped to continue it from New Mexico, but she got very caught up with her own program there, so she was unable to do it. It's not that she didn't want to do it or just sort of dropped it, just she really wasn't able to continue. So then it was all dropped on me. So I was trying to put together a program. I was trying to create materials for a 604, for something that would be transitional for the 612, which really wasn't, because we didn't know what they had done before, so it was just challenging. But finally, I did get the material, and I had to see how I could incorporate everything that they see in 604 and 610 as far as grammar particularly. And then I wanted a very large cultural component for these students. So what ended up was the book that Jose is using right now in ANAP, which is Conectando. Okay? And that we started using that book this year. Before we had been using PDFs. Okay. I wish I thought I had gotten this bigger, but it's not there. Basically, it's 3 units. Okay? And the first unit is a lot about identity. I felt it was important for our heritage students to have an identity. Know, who am I? Where do I fit in this world? Where do I fit in within the United States? Where do I fit in within the Hispanic community? And once again, although our vast student population is Mexican American. That's not everybody. We have students from El Salvador, Central America. So it was trying to touch a little bit on everything. But the major focus on the first unit is setting up an identity. And what they do at the very end, and I'll explain it a little bit more, for their writing, they actually go out and interview people. They write questions about things that they want to know about Hispanics, and they do an interview. They interview several people, then they come back and they do a report, like you would do for your linguistics classes or wherever you take them, that you have to do that type of report. The second one were the means of communication. And in that one, the reading that I had for that one was Esmeralda Santiago, cuando era puertorriqueña, because her introduction is precisely what happens to these students. She's talking about how estoy escribiendo en español o en inglés y estoy pensando en español because she came over. It's their experience. She came over when she was 11 or 13, I don't remember exactly. And so she started to live in both worlds. And of course, Puerto Rico, we think Puerto Rico, no, they speak a lot of English. Come on, no. If you go to Puerto Rico, sí, people will speak English, but not everybody. Almost everything is in Spanish. So she came over, and so I just thought that that prologue of her book, as I was creating this, I said, it's their identity. It tells them what they have to overcome. Page 2 was los medios de comunicación. We're talking about Hispanics in the media. And seeing things like how Hispanics have been shut by the media for so long so that they could see their experience. They've been shunned. Whenever I see America's Got Talent and I see Howard Stern there, after Selena died, he came out with these horrible comments about her. And so they would see these things. And also within their community, how some of them, que son groseros, eh? You see some of these programs and you say, how can people allow those to come out? It really debases our Hispanic population. So I brought out things like that in it, so they would be seeing them. And then the final reading was from Jorge Ramos, Atravesando Fronteras. Jorge Ramos is a newspaper reporter in, the last elections. He was considered the person of all of, not just Hispanic reporters, of all the reporters who could most influence the elections. That's how strong he is. And you see him and he's totally not arrogant or anything. So it was about his experience also of coming and living between two worlds and not being ni mexicano porque allá me dicen que estoy agringado, ni americano porque no soy americano. About his children who were born here, but where are they from? So it's crossing borders. So I took different excerpts from it and compiled it into a reading which I felt also spoke to what the students were dealing with. And the third one, you can probably see right there, is de las tradiciones, and it's going back to tradition. Now, I do include a lot of history, short little things about history, and we see the the major indigenous populations, and a little bit of we can't go into it that much, but this is the type of reading these students can do. These students don't have to read, la semana pasada fui con mi hermano, ra, 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 ra. No, they can read. Through reading, students learn to garner vocabulary, so we don't have vocabularies, they're just building it through their reading. I have them read them all aloud in class because that works for fluency, pronunciation, and everything. And so the final reading on this one is, I don't know if y'all are familiar with Rolando Hinojosa Smith. He's full professor in the Department of English. Rolando Hinojosa Smith is one of the pioneer Chicano writers, at the same time as Tomás Rivera, of everyone else. And he had one short story that I loved, which was Feliz Cumpleaños Estados Unidos de América. And this was when he was still a graduate student because he went off to the war in Korea, came back, taught high school, and then went on and got his PhD. So it's 1976, and he's telling Happy Birthday, USA. And he talks about the soldiers who have gone to fight and how they have never been recognized. And it's a conversation, it's a man, an old man, remember, y te acuerdas de esto? So that brings so much of what they will hear among their grandparents and their parents saying, do you remember this? Do you remember that? So I chose that as for this one on tradition. Okay. So those are the three main topics of the book. And then some of the things that we do, this is about the very first page, and this is where they actually start seeing, what do I think? What do my friends think? So they're trying to identify, and what is a bilingual student? Why did I take this class? Did I take it to get an ECA? Did I take it because my girlfriend can speak better than I can and I'm embarrassed? Or that I can speak better than she can, but I can't write? Or my friends? So it's an introspection. So they start knowing who they are. They start finding that identity. Then other things I do, like, for example, in the letters. And this, I was really surprised. The first time I taught 604, I just thought everybody would know the alphabet and the numbers. No. So I had to go back and change that and include numbers and the alphabet. Okay? And for them to remember the letters. So then I would give them words like that. They're jumbled up. I give them the first letter, the second letter, but they're in the word form of the letter. And then they put them together and then they get a word. I tried to make it seem more like a game and a lot of things to keep them in ties. And then word searches. And the word searches will have words in which right here, there might be interference, like, I don't know if that's alphabet or like that, but I look for words when we're studying certain letters, and I look for that type of words to be there. Bilingüe, que tiene que tener diéresis, okay? Things so that they're looking for it and they're reading the words, it's staying with them. So it's not just a list of words, it's let's take these words and let's make them into something that's more fun, more engaging. Okay, other things. Here's where we were getting to terminology. Las clases de palabra. Okay. ¿Qué es esta clase de palabra? You can't come right out and say, okay, if you just tell them, comer es un verbo, da-da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da-da, it's rote learning. It's really not understanding. So let's go in and analyze a little bit. So we do start, and here are some sentences, okay, some meanings, and sentence, and then they try to find the word that would match, and that we brought up a little bit before, and then they come on to a table in which they see that, and they see the word in English, and they see what a preposition is, and so many have told me, I'm learning English grammar in this class, because they had no idea, okay? So that they're joining. I use English quite a bit in the books, I mix it. Well, not quite a bit, but I do use it. That's the reality. These students have two worlds, and they can get from both worlds and take advantage of them. So I'm not at all against, I'm not totalmente en español, because these students are not acquiring the language. They're taking things that they know and bringing them together to form their knowledge of the language. And there are a lot of these little green boxes, which are called sintetizar constantly, from what I told you about reprocessing, recycling. So you get these little boxes and they'll tell you more or less what we study, and then they have to go in and fill it in, and it goes over and over. And the other day, Joseli was telling me, why do you have so much about la tilde, las palabras llanas, or one of them? And I did change the way you told me. And I said, because this just doesn't stick with them. They have to see it over and over and over, and then it will stick with them. Okay? So they went from that, they went to this, then they did a reading in which the words were underlined, and then they came and tried to place them, and then they gave other examples of their own, so that they go beyond just what's there. They have to learn to think, okay, si comemos es un verbo, entonces ¿qué otra palabra? Ah, pues, estudiamos. So they go beyond, So it's just not what's there, and I just fill in the little blank, okay? Spanglish. I was brought up anti-Spanglish. I was brought up purista for years and years and years, until I started looking at it, and I started realizing Spanglish has a huge value. It really is, but at home it was, hablas español en casa, sales de la puerta, hablas inglés, y nunca las mezclas. Never the two languages shall meet. And I taught in La Porte. It's not Porter High School, it's La Porte, right off the bridge. And so I would see my students going along and saying, te veo el Tuesday en la fiesta de Bobby. And then I lived in Spain for a long time, and my American friends use Spanglish. And it was very funny. They were English speakers, but they were speaking Spanish, and they were doing the same thing, just the opposite. So it's there. And then I started thinking, what would have happened if the first Spaniards that got here would have been puristas? We would have never started using words like tomate, mitote, el laberinto. We wouldn't have used a lot of these words. But it's the cultures coming together. So that's what I tried to get across to them. Spanglish is not bad. You just have to know when to use it. You have to know the circumstances. But don't let people tell you that you're wrong because you use Spanglish. And it's just no. You have to know both languages very well. Then you can defend yourself perfectly. I also include a lot of readings in which they do multiple choice reading comprehension. And I try to add something sometimes where they add their own or they make a little summary or something so it goes above and beyond. Just that. Okay. Other things that we do. When we're talking about los aztecas, el Nahuatl, la lengua Nahuatl. Okay? Then I give them the transcription in Nahuatl of words like cacahuate, guajolote, and what are they doing there? As they're transcribing what they're doing there, they're writing it in Spanish, spelling is there. They can check their spelling. When we get to guajolote, les digo con J o con G. Pues con G y luego guajolote, con J o con G. Con G le digo pronúncialo. Guajolote le digo no, pronúncialo. Guajogot, no man, it's con J. So the words are there, and that's how I'm trying to get them to spell. Not by giving them lists of words to spell and memorize how you spell it, no. But let's use it in a game form, but reasoning all the time. Why is it guajolote con J? So it's going from words that we have there in Nahuatl, and they'll see it chocolatl, chocolate, y ya lo ven como lo van a deletrear, okay? And then in another one in which we're looking at, once again, G, J, H, X, I think it is, I put in a little thing about a speech that Garcia Marquez had said, in which he talked to, he said, let's get rid of all these letters, except when they're necessary. And he said, E, and it's beautiful. You know that very often in oral Spanish, they'll say, si, can't even think of something. Presente subjuntivo, somebody give me an example. Podamos. Si podamos. Instead of si podamos, in which they make it. Because in our imperfect subjunctive, you do have la palabra estrújula, And so he's saying, let's value that. Let's get rid of all of that. So this is sort of things that they would think, yeah, why do I have to know if it's a J or a G when it sounds exactly the same in those circumstances or in the X? So it's their frustration. They're seeing this fabulous writer talking about it, you know. War, y empieza guerra a la H y la J. And then I add a little bit because Juan Ramón Jiménez had done that way back, in which he said inteligencia, and you'll see it, inteligencia con la J. He was saying we should get rid of that. But like I tell him, it's here, we've got to live with it, so we have to continue. And I said, Garcia Marquez can say that when you're earning the millions that he has earned, and you publish the books that he has published, then you can do it too. Pero mientras tanto, no. Okay? And so then, another thing that I tried to do also was already started, I'm thinking already about 612, because, and this was Mina Ogando, she told me, she said, one of the things that these students love in the linguistics course is linguistic transcription. They love it. It's like a game. They love it. So I said, vamos a usar eso. So for some of them, I would try to give them the linguistic transcription, and then they would write the word. So once again, it's trying to get to spelling by something else that's just lists of spelling. Let's do it in a way that makes you think, makes you go a little bit beyond what you're doing there. Okay? I know they hate this very often, and probably Jocelyn, you'll see it when we get to recapitular, but it's there at the end. Each chapter is divided into 3 sections, well, 3 grammar sections and then another one. And they have this in which to go, this, if you're looking at 610 and 611, you know where I got it, my my understanding of this, so that was not mine. I think that was Melissa's idea, if I'm not wrong, when we were writing those books.
It's all a blur.
Yeah, when we were writing. And then these are sometimes confusing and frustrating to them at the beginning, in which all the answers are correct, but one is a better answer. So they have to go through, and this is where they're analyzing and they're looking at it carefully. Why is this one the right one? Why not this one? Well, look, this one no me dice que es un verbo personal. Nada más dice es un verbo. So this one is clear, eh? So they don't go to choose A, B, C, or D, which is right and which is wrong, or A, B, C. They choose which is the better of the three. And as they're reading through all three of them, they are remembering their rules, and it is coming back to them, and it is there, que es un verbo personal, and they're remembering, no recuerdo lo que es un infinitivo, o no recuerdo lo que es esto. So it's bringing everything back to them in a different format. Then the other thing is, with las clases de palabra, because you can't introduce and just leave it there. And this is one of the things where they struggle a little bit more, and they try to do haphazard guessing, and it doesn't work for them, especially when they get into 612, and I'll tell you why. In which I keep giving them little sentences, and they have to tell me what kind of, what part of speech each word is. So they're constantly going over that. Then in editar, I give them sentences in which the mistake could be A, B, C, or without an error. That's going back to the old AP language exam. Okay? So that was sort of like what you would get on it, and you would find it. And I try to focus on things where I know there might be mistakes, okay? And where there might be interference from English. Ejemplo con X, example, interference from English. Ah, no, this is wrong. Yo no lo puedo decir así. Okay? So I try to pick out things I've seen students constantly making mistakes on. Then, very similar to what you have in 610, in which there are mistakes which are underlined, and they have to decide which is the mistake and write the correction. So that's where I'm trying to pick up things from 610 as we're going along, not only because I thought they were good in the 610 book, but if they leave 604 and go to a 611, they'll have something there from before. Okay. Then to make things a little bit fun, and once again, it's entre dos lenguas, between two languages. Crossword puzzles. Some of the words are in English, some of the words are in Spanish. They have to fill it in. And once again, it's looking at the words where they will misspell, okay? Or they might have problems with, or where they might have interference. For example, intelligent, double L. Inteligente, they'll want to write with two L's. Well, perhaps it'll be there with just the one L. So it's pinpointing. I've chosen the words to focus on certain things. It's not just random words. Then there's sentences in which I give them a sentence in English, and they try to find the best one in Spanish. They find the correct one, I'm sorry, here in Spanish. And it's going back and checking things. Okay, this one is in the past tense, but these two are in the present, or this one has a different type of, I don't know, agreement. Okay? So they're looking, and all the time they're reading analytically. They're looking at things, short things, analytically. And then afterwards, generally, this will be in which, from one of the readings they did, I give them sentences, and they might go back and correct mistakes, just different things in which they're applying. So those vary quite a bit. But I even brought in the crucigramas, the crossword puzzles into 612, because my students from 604 said, oh man, please give us puzzles here too. So I didn't feel like writing them, but I gave them puzzles. Okay, this is cuando era puertorriqueña. Just a very brief introduction. I tell them to look up Puerto Rico, and sometimes we have time. It just depends how fast. I can tell you in 612, we're barely making it through. I ask them questions on the side, which are comprehension questions. And then at the end, it's an application of the notions that they have learned grammatically within the story. Go back, vuelve y busca tres verbos, I don't know, en el presente, o tres verbos no personales, tres verbos personales, tres verbos impersonales, ¿eh? Just different things. O ve y busca un ejemplo de un sustantivo, different things, so that they're applying the grammar within the reading. Okay, and then when we get to writing, before we go into writing, I will give them, this is I think the one from, I don't remember, this must be from the first chapter, in which they were going going to do the survey and then write a report on their survey. So we go through 3 examples, and they all have the same thing. We start off with a weaker one, and then they check off. Is this there? 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 And then we go to one that's a little bit better, and they write, why is this better than the one before? Okay? And then they come to one, and I always tell them, these are not perfect. These are not perfect. They're models, but they are not perfect, especially this one. So maybe there will be some things which are missing here. So what I'm trying to do is for them to organize. They're writing, they can write, and they write, and they write, and they write. But many of them are very weak in organizing their materials, in focusing on what they're supposed to write. So this is helping them get to that, hopefully. And then what follows that would be en la comunidad, and this tells them about what they're going to do for the encuesta, what they have to do. It takes them step by step, how they form it, form little groups, or they can do it individually. And then they have the questions that they're going to write, and it's going back over their interrogative words rather than just interrogative words there. Here they are, because I'm going to apply them to the questions I'm going to be asking. And then the components that they had to have there from what they saw samples before, is this there, and they start organizing. So it's a matter of getting them to organize their writing skills. That is, in brief, what 604 is. Any questions? And please stop me at any moment, because if not, I just continue talking. No hay pregunta? Okay. This will be avanzando. It should come out this fall. Yes, they don't give me much choice. It has to come out this fall. Lo tengo que hacer. See? And I can tell you right now, I'm so burned out that there are days that I look at the books and I think, forget about it. Okay, so it starts with a repaso preliminar. In the repaso, I know somebody told Maria Luisa in her class, they said, this is all 604 in 2 weeks. No, it takes the main things, because it's not only a repaso, but I have students coming into 612 who have not gone through 604. And so this is a way to sort of start breaking them in, to see what they have to start knowing. It'll take them longer to get into this, but at least they're getting a preliminary review and the main things are there. And then 3 units. So this one actually has 4 units, but that one is much shorter. Then we have 1 unit on percepciones and how they perceive things. Another unit in desafíos, which is what we're doing right now, and another unit on responsabilidades. So this book, although it has quite a bit of culture, it's pulling away from the identity from what we were doing in 604 and bringing them into a more, I don't want to say modern world, but something that they will probably then see in upper division courses. So I don't want to keep them away from social responsibility, the idea of beauty, all those things which might be a part, I don't know, of a course in upper division wherever they go. So it's starting to build up vocabulary for them also. Okay. And I start each one of them with pictures, and we generally discuss the picture and ¿cómo se relaciona esto a las percepciones? ¿Por qué creen que he puesto yo algo? ¿Por qué? No, I don't know por qué he puesto. ¿Por qué creen que está esa imagen ahí? ¿Y por qué creen que eso? Para que hable. ¿Qué tiene que ver con ello? Okay. And so then once again, they're very similar. I'm following a lot of the things. Some of them are more visual, la clase de palabras, luego las cláusulas, and you can probably find this. You're going to find a lot of things which will be reminiscent of 604. Because they're seeing it a second time, and this time maybe it'll stay. And then what we do differently is we diagram. Well, and more than their diagramming, they start seeing things in diagram form. When they're diagramming, all of a sudden, sujeto, predicado start making visual sense. El sustantivo, y les digo, los sustantivos en la línea horizontal, los verbos en la línea horizontal, los pronombres en líneas horizontales. So they come and they choose this word, and they say, esto es un pronombre. Le digo, ¿dónde está la línea horizontal? Ah, no. So they start seeing things, and they start visualizing. And let me see if I got an example. I think I do. No, I forgot about it. Afterwards, I'll give them in quizzes constantly diagrams in which they have the words, and underneath are the funciones. And so if they come and they say, ese es un adverbio, le digo, ¿cómo puede ser un adverbio? ¿Qué es lo que hace esa palabra? Pues me dice que alguien come. Le digo, ¿cómo puede ser un adverbio? Fíjate lo que hace el adverbio. And so then they start, because they always have to put the letter of the function next to it. So they start, and eventually it starts coming in, and they start understanding, and they start seeing what funciones de las palabras son. Tildes, one of our biggest headaches. So that when you're looking at 604 book, right? That's straight from the 604 book. Once again, it's there. That way they're seeing things that they've seen before. It's not all totally new, and hopefully it's clicking from before. And then another thing which I tried doing last semester is when we're looking at the different types of verbs. Que niños a veces estamos hablando de verbos reflexivos. And these will be a few of them, but nada. They don't see it. They don't see it. So then we start working with charts like this, in which I give them the verb, and they have to first say primera, segunda, tercera conjugación. Verbo reflexivo. Entonces, es verbo regular, irregular, cambio ortográfico. So they go on to that, and then they go on si es personal, impersonal, no personal. And the last one that we did also had modo, indicativo, subjuntivo, and of course I would give us an infinitivo so that they would say, aquí no hay modo. So it's trying once again to get them to analyze visually a little bit more. And then, I can't even see what it is up there. These are phonetic transcriptions. I give them the words. We're doing now the spelling again because we're back over spelling. Spelling and grammar are their weakest points. And I was real happy because I went to so-called conference about 2 weeks ago, and there was a woman talking about heritage learners, and she had them list what was their weakest point. And they started off grammar, and these were the students themselves. Grammar, spelling, writing, and then they went on down. So they themselves recognized that this is their weakness, and they were saying, and which ones, by category, which ones would you want to learn in this class? Grammar, spelling, writing. So they themselves are asking for these. And so from the phonetic transcription, they write the words, and we do this a lot with homófonos también. Vaya, vaya, hacer, and hacer. But then, of course, and despite how much I tell them, jamás, jamás, Z-E, I get an email yesterday from the student, no lo hice a tiempo, Z-E, but I didn't want to tell her anything today, but I'll remind her when it dice, Damaris, hice con qué, Z-E or C-E, and then she'll say, C-E. But this will happen. This is when they're writing quickly, and that's when all the mistakes start popping up, okay? What we also do is quite a bit of editar, in which I'll give them, and it looks like it's handwritten, and they have to go in and find the mistakes, and sometimes they're specific to what we're looking at in the spelling. Tildes will always be there because I know that's their weak point. Agreement, you would try to say, these students don't have problems with agreement. Remember, I have students who are very weak, who barely speak. So we've got a mix of everything. If you were to hear some of the recordings, but I don't have them, well, I could, but I can't pull them up right now because the students' names pops up. You will hear that some of them can barely, hablan todavía, even though they're in 612, es muy limitado su español, because their Spanish is limited to my class. They leave the class, they don't use it again at all. So it's 6 hours a week, and that's it. They don't speak Spanish with their parents. They might with a grandparent, but it's different. It's just social Spanish. Okay. What I also do in this book is that we describe el de los desafíos, que es un desafío, and then these pictures, and I tell them, ¿qué es lo que ven aquí? I want them to start relating the language to something that's beyond, to be able to express something. And they've just done an oral, one of the little oral things that they have to give to me, in which I gave them 3 pictures, I had to pick one out, and say, how did it relate to something? ¿Cómo se relaciona esto a desafíos? que hablen, and they speak among themselves, but they're describing, they've got something concrete to speak about. Another thing that I have them do in this class is that we discuss something and then they write an email. So it's short writing, informal. I'm trying to give them a lot of informal writing, a lot of summaries. Now that they've already gotten the grammar more or less, in this class I'm focusing a lot more on writing, a lot of spontaneous writing in which they're just writing, and I'm not really going back to check over the grammar. I want them to be able to sit and write, to get it out, because I still have students who will sit there and spend time just trying to think, what am I going to write? I want them to get over that, because just start writing, just start writing. And then, well, that's something else I've got up there. I don't know, I can't see it, I'm sorry. I made it so little trying to get all the pages in. But it's one of them. Okay, here, oh, this is what I told you that I give them. Okay, this is where they have the diagram sentence. Here are the functions of the words, and then they have to go in and place the function right there. I tried this, and I'm going to have to change that because they've got them sort of confused. I will constantly give them editar, and in this one, now they have a short reading from something that they already read. There's 6 mistakes. They have to find the mistake and the correction, but I don't underline anything. There they have to go in and find them, eh? And they will increase. Eventually they'll be up to 10. Now, one of the other things that we did, and this is what I think that this one is, it was, this one, the ad. They were writing, well, it's not the ad, I'll tell you about one thing. We were talking about problems, social responsibilities, and we were talking about people and about designers. But rather than just talk, we had one on designers, then I talked about, and I made it up, about women who were designing clothes for people who had colostomy bags or who therapeutic. So clothes that would make them look good, that they could feel good about it. So then one of the writings that they did, which was a short writing, in which they had to think, create something that would be helpful to society. Okay? What could you do? So they came out with wonderful ideas. They loved it. And so that's when they're writing, and they're writing informally, but they're thinking about things. In culture, here we're looking at the paintings from the 18th century, in which you have the clases sociales are there. And as you go through them, the lower the class gets, the worse the clothing. If they're the European, van bien vestidos. And so it's talking about, son las denominaciones. So we read about that. Then the one that's there, I couldn't go through all the denominations. I would give them how they would see as they were mixing. The more Indian blood you had, the worse you came down on the scale. Some of the names are like El Santa Tras. So they're very interesting, very, very interesting. So once again, they have comprehension questions, but what's different from the other course, this one will always have about 4 or 5 grammar questions included as part of it. And then I ask them to write a little bit. My time's almost gone. Similar to what you do in 610, and this is where there's a conversation among them, and it's written there, and so they sit there and they converse. We don't go to lab. I don't have time to go to lab, so they do a lot of things at home. It's there. And then on this one, in which we were talking about social responsibilities, el rol del hombre y el rol de la mujer. And of course, we'll always say women are underpaid, women are so-so. So then we start thinking, okay, what's good about el rol tradicional del hombre y qué es lo bueno del rol tradicional de la mujer? And so they write, I want them to see 2 points of everything, two sides of every issue. And then the writing that they do right after that, it's a man. And he's a stay-home dad, and he wants to help with a committee at school, but it's just for mothers. So all of a sudden, here's inverse discrimination. So he's writing to the school to complain. It's a letter of complaint. Eh? But I tell him, remember in the letter of complaint, you have to be very specific in what you're saying. You can't be emotional. Eh? You have to know to whom you're going to write. So all of a sudden, he has to write to the school to tell them why he thinks it is wrong for him not to be able to participate in that committee at the school simply because he is a man. So it's getting them to see more than just one point of view. Y ya los dejo ahí porque ya casi es la hora. Okay, once again, we have the reading at the end, okay? And this is what we start first. And it's different from the other ones. They don't have all the little check marks anymore. They moved forward. But this is talking about, we had, this one, we had a little bit on Los Pachucos, a little reading. And this is about the Sleepy Lagoon. If you've ever seen Zoot Suit, you should. It's excellent. It's Teatro Campesino, Zoot Suit, Luis Valdez. So it's talking about that, how they went to court and the judge made them go in dressed in zoot suit so that people would be against him, okay? How he wouldn't let them be with their attorney, all sorts of things. So of course it gets the students all riled up. So then what they had to do in La Comunidad was go out to your community, to the Hispanic community, find something that happened, and you're going to write a newspaper article. It has to be brief, it has to be concise, it takes them through all the different things. Aspectos positivos, aspectos negativos. Once again, see two sides of every question. And I think this might be it. No, sorry. And then I guide them through it just like we did in the other one. Okay? And then on this one, what they do is they do peer editing as far as content and everything. And I give them this sheet, and actually part of their grade for their essay will be based on the score that the other person gives them because they peer edit. Then they give it to the person whom it was, and that person will score them based on how helpful the annotations, the notes that they made were when he was or she was writing the final draft. And then just one last thing, ahora que me acuerdo. Okay, atando cabos. These are things which are not part of the grammar, but they're just bringing things together. Ser en estado. ¿Por qué puedo decir la mayoría es o la mayoría son? Because we're going to go across and it will be perfect to say both of them. Eh? And so it's there. So it tells them just things that might pop up that they might question when they're writing or doing things. But then I do specify some things like, but la familia es can only be singular. Eh? And, ¿y cuál es la diferencia del niño es muy alto y está muy alto? It is first impression, second impression, so it's there. On this other one, these were with adjectives about color, how they change. Los zapatos café, pero los libros azules. Why? So it's there for them to see, and when they're combined. This one, I can't even see what it is. I know this is chapter 3, but there are alternancias, things that don't follow or that are acceptable. Of course, in chapter 3, where we do the subjunctive, hay muchísimas alternancias, and that's when you come and I tell them, me alegro que estás aquí is as correct as me alegro que estés aquí. But we didn't study that before. But now that you have studied it, now that you've learned it, now you can see why. So I just pick out a few alternancias because there's so many, especially with the subjunctive. So basically that's what 612 is. So I did take things that I would do in 327G, I will be honest. I did bring them into this one because I knew these students could do it. It's right. That's our program for Heritage Learners. 2 semesters, I wish I had 3, but it's 2 semesters, that's fine. Any questions? And so I hope you are encouraged to do it, to teach bilinguals. I would ask of you, and I know I've seen in Joseli, and without them less because I've had less contact, Joseli, Maria Luisa, hay que entregarse. You really got to dedicate yourself. This is not a course. If you don't want to really give of your whole self, don't do it. Don't do it. These students have been, they really need the support that we can give them. ¿Verdad que sí, Joseli? Y son un amor. But I hate to tell you how wonderful it is to teach those classes because then maybe you'll have to take over mine and I won't be able to teach them. And I love teaching bilinguals. Muy bien.
Any questions? And in a very short period of time, everything had to happen so fast, and you did a ton of work. Any questions?
Yeah, a question, because I'm very interested in teaching this course, and I've expressed my interest every semester, but it seems like that there's not enough courses. And my question is has the program thinking about opening up more sections so that more AIs can have the experience of teaching heritage language courses? Because we really need to make our,
Your CV
our teaching
stronger.
portfolio
Well, the
more
way it
diverse.
works now is the department can't just decide to open more sections because we want to offer more sections. Lisa has to basically prove that enrollment last semester was high enough to warrant an extra section.
Yes.
So the 2 sections of 604 filled really fast this time. There wasn't a wait list, I don't think, but she might be able to justify a 3rd section next time. So it's one of those things that's gonna happen slowly. We
Yeah.
can't just say, we want 8 sections and we hope they fill. The dean won't allow that anymore.
Right.
Because they want all the classes to be between 20 and 25. They don't want classes that are like, 14, 15. So my guess is it'll be, little by little, and maybe in a few years, we'll have, 5 sections of each or
Yeah.
something.
604 will probably be stronger, just like 601 is, because a lot of students with 604 complete the requirement, because
Right.
it's considered like a 612. And so it's considered like a 610. So 612, I don't think will ever be that numerous, have that many students. I wish we would, because like I said, if we could get these students really strong in our department, they could fill up our upper division classes.
And we have posters that we hang up, but that only reaches so many students. This summer, what we're gonna be doing, actually, we found out we can include a few slides in the presentation that's shown during the main orientation for all the incoming freshmen. Because a lot of students don't even know that we have these classes. And I just met with a heritage speaker in 601 who said, I didn't know there was the 604, I would have taken it. So we're hoping that by advertising during orientation, that we can get more interest, and maybe we'll get people on a wait list, which will then warrant an extra section, and
I was also taking into account all the students that we've been reporting that are heritage speakers that are in 601.
well, I've sent those numbers to Lisa, and I think we had 115 heritage speakers in 25 sections, so that's a lot. But that alone isn't going to allow us to just offer 4 more sections, because there's no saying that those students would want to enroll. So it's gonna be a slow process, but we're really doing everything we can, because we all wanna see more of the students out of 601 into 604. They'll benefit more. The non-native speakers will benefit more in the classes.
Right.
It won't be so heterogeneous, it will be much better.
And I would even encourage students who are in 601 regular right now, they still have to go through a 610 and 611, just go from 601 to 604. It's a big jump into 612, okay? I would encourage them, take 604, it's going to be really worthwhile, and in 604 and 612, you'll be taking the same hours, but you're going to get a